Morning everybody. It is a very cold -3 morning here in the Derbyshire Peak District. Very cold, but as always, for all those that didn't like my legs yesterday, you're not going to like this. Still got the shorts on. Can't beat it. It's just so restricting wearing trousers and stuff. Like I said, if it starts to snow or it weather gets really bad, where hypothermia is likely, then yeah, I'll probably stick some trousers on, but not until. Right, let's get into this. So, might have a few topics today to talk about. So, the lunatics in charge of Western governments at the minute, all those that think they can win a nuclear war, are all sabre rattling towards Russia and saying that Russia is this great threat to our country. It's not true. Russia's not a threat. If Russia really meant to do what it wanted to do, it would have moved a long time ago. It would have gone to Poland, taken Poland, because Poland at the minute is probably the only truly strong military power in Europe. Take out Poland and then the rest would fall like dominoes. France is sabre rattling as well. They're up there. Macron and his cabinet saying that French sons and daughters must die for France, and all this usual rhetoric. And it's true what people are saying. I've said this before myself, that if the politicians had to go on the front line, if they had to fight the wars that they're so eagerly willing to start, there'd be no war. There would be no war at all. But they're always willing to sacrifice other people for their own agendas. And this isn't a war that anybody could actually win. I'm talking about Russia as well. This is a war that nobody would win. This is a one-track path to suicide. You would say they started a war with Russia. Russia wouldn't send ground troops in or anything like that. It would just simply start nuking people. Probably conventional weapons first. Probably use its hypersonic missiles first to send the message home. Probably take out 10 Downing Street with a hypersonic missile just to get the message home. And then if that didn't work, then it would deploy its nuclear arsenal. And it doesn't need to take thousands upon thousands of nuclear weapons to take out Britain. You just drop one smack bang in the middle of the country. Goodbye UK, we're gone, we're done. Cause a massive humanitarian crisis, millions dead. UK's taken off the table. There'll probably be an exchange between the USA, nuclear wise USA, and Russia, and then you're left with a poison wasteland that nobody can live in. So that's the reality of any war with Russia. And these maniacs that we have in charge at the minute think they can win that, think it's possible to win. Maybe if we strike first, we can take out enough of their nuclear weapons to win this. Not without causing massive catastrophic damage to the planet though. And that's why these lunatics need to be getting out of power as soon as possible. They really do. They're insane. They're all insane. Maniacs. The lot of them. And I'll have to laugh at this as well, because Russia shone some little lasers at one of our battleships, the Ministry of Defence had to come out and start bragging about their Dragonfly laser weapon that can take out drones and stuff like that. Won't really matter if Russia decides to launch a hypersonic missile against your battleship, because there's no defence against that at the minute, against hypersonic missiles. They've been proved to be very, very effective in the Ukraine in taking out infrastructure and stuff like that. And let's face it, really, does Putin have to use nuclear weapons to disable this country? We're already in a state. It's not like we're in a healthy, great stance to start fighting a war. We're not. We're really not. All he would have to do is use conventional weapons with his hypersonic missiles, take out a few data storage centres that store your data for your banking and internet banking and that sort of stuff, and the country grinds to a halt because you can no longer pay for stuff online. companies can no longer purchase items. Everybody has to resort back to using cash again, which will take time. It would cause absolute chaos. They could take out vital infrastructure, they could take out power stations, they could take out water purification places. It wouldn't take much to disable the country in its present condition that it's in at the minute. We haven't built any reservoirs in this country for decades. We believe it or not, for an island that is completely surrounded by water, they were predicting water shortages in this country. So you just take out a few reservoirs, a few water purification centres, and you cause chaos, absolute chaos. We wouldn't be able to fight a war. And even if you didn't do any of this, in our present state, we are not capable of fighting a war with Russia. We're just not. We don't have the munitions. Somebody pointed this out in the chat yesterday, in the comment sections of one of my videos from yesterday, that we're in no state to fight a war with Russia. We don't have the weapons. We don't have the ammunition. We gave all our ammunition to Ukraine, so we created a shortage for ourselves. That's why the report went out that we can't stop an invasion at the minute, not because we've got a lack of personnel, but the lack of equipment to actually defend ourselves with. So all this talk about going to war with Russia, in my opinion, it's smoke and mirrors. It's a distraction. They're trying to distract away from their own failings in government. The same way France is doing the same thing. France is becoming a failed state, just like this country is at the minute. You just got to watch the look at the other direction. They're pointing one direction, you look the other way and see what they're actually distracting you from. So don't believe all they're saying. Russia is no threat to this country. Absolutely. Well, I would say it the other way around. We're no threat to Russia. We are no threat to Russia, and Russia knows that. That's why they just laugh at us. That's why Putin's in his office laughing at us at the minute, because he knows we're a complete and utter joke. We're not this world superpower like we used to be when we had the empire. Now we're just this tiny little island with an idiot for a prime minister. That's all we are now. And our political class has made us that way. We're not respected in the world like we once were, or on the world stage, because we've had decades and decades of morons being in charge of this country. We're just not respected anymore. A lot of it is just bravado now. It's just like we're actually riding the tails of our old reputation within the world, and we think we still have all this power to talk on the world stage, which we really don't anymore. We don't have that anymore. And a lot of people don't realise that. Obviously, the mainstream media and the political class are working in lockstep. There's all these fear-mongering stories about Russia and all this type of nonsense, trying to push the narrative, trying to get people scared about Russia being a threat, when it's just all nonsense. It's just absolute nonsense. It really is. And when you start to research yourself and you look at the facts, you realise how much nonsense it actually really is. So let's talk a little about lefties and their ability to debate, or lack of ability to debate. So they'll come into an argument with this false sense of intellectual superiority, where it's just false. It's just fake intellectual superiority that they think they have, and they really don't. They can't enter into a debate with good faith. And every single debate I've had with them has always ended in name calling on their part, because when you really challenge them on what they actually believe and what they actually stand for, they've got no answers. They've got no answers to that, because it's just vapid what they believe. They can't back up their claims. You saw it in the live stream that I was doing when they called me racist, and I asked them, why am I racist? And they can't do it. They just simply can't do it, because everything they say is a buzzword. Everything they say is a buzzword. Everything they say is a learned phrase with absolutely no substance behind it whatsoever. This is why you have people at the protests. You've seen them yourself, where you've seen citizen journalists going up to interview them. They're asking them questions, and then you'll get the it's usually the legal advisors that come round and tell them not to talk to anybody. That's because these legal advisors know that if any of these protesters open their mouth, they're going to make their cause look stupid because they've got no answers. They can't explain why they're chanting Nazi scum off our streets because there are no Nazis on the street. They can't explain why you're a Nazi and why they're calling you a Nazi because you're not a Nazi. It's just a way of demonising and smearing you because they can't debate. That's the only way they can win, is by demonising you and calling you something and saying, well, I'm not speaking to you because you're a Nazi. And then when you ask them a question, right, why am I a Nazi? Do you know me? Do you know my life? And obviously they can't answer that because they don't know you, they don't know your life. And that's the level of their intellectual capacity. You saw it when I was on that bridge, when I was talking to that lefty that was masked up holding up the sign saying refugees welcome here. And I was asking him, right, back it up. How many refugees are you willing to take into your house? And all he kept saying is, I'm not going to talk to you. It's because it's not because I'm a Nazi or I'm a fascist. It's simply because he can't back up what he's saying. He can't explain why he won't take in a refugee. Because he knows why he won't take in a refugee. Because deep down, these people know that they're just as dangerous as we are saying they are. Why do you think the deputy leader of the Green Party has lobbied against having one of these refugee centres, illegal immigrant centres in their own constituency? It's because they know they're dangerous. They've seen all the stats the same way we have. They know that these undocumented men are very dangerous to our society, but they don't care. They don't care when it's not their own areas. They don't care about you. They don't care that these people are going to be putting your lives and your family's lives at risk. They don't care about that. All they care about is themselves. And they prove their hypocrisy when they lobby against the very thing they're advocating for, putting in your communities for themselves. So yeah, they've got no intellectual capacity to debate. None whatsoever. I proved it yesterday. I had a live stream yesterday. This person in chat called Virginia Woolf came on trying to big herself up about how Marx was fantastic. And then I was like refuting the questions. She had no idea about basic economics. Like she was saying, tax the rich, the super elite rich, tax them. And then when you explain to them that the only reason that you can afford a social welfare system is because we have because rich people produce an excess tax revenue, and tax revenue is what pays for your social welfare system, then once you start taxing those people and they start voting with their legs and leaving the country, you get less and less of a pool of people that produce an excess. So you either reduce the budget for your social welfare system or it collapses, and that's exactly what will happen. That's exactly what socialism and communism do. They collapse because eventually they just run out of other people's money because they implement these same policies: tax the rich, tax the elites, and they leave the country, and then the only people they're left with to tax is you and me, and we don't nearly produce half as much tax as a really successful business that's taken decades to build. Because they always bring this argument up as well. Oh, you know, just give it to the workers. But they don't think that the people who built those businesses up were also workers at one point. Socialism, communism basically just punishes people for working hard. That's what it does. It punishes people working hard, and it's an unfair system because then it takes some of those profits, it takes some of those hard-earned earnings and just gives them to people that basically don't deserve it. They've not worked for it. That's what they do. Now, I'm not having a go at the welfare system. Yeah, there are generally some people out there that need help in society. And yes, we should have a social welfare system, because if you don't, that's the other end of the scale. You start to get crime. If you don't help these people out, you get crime on a massive scale. So yeah, we do need it. But these people don't understand how we get there, how we are able to afford these social welfare projects. And they don't get it that if you start taxing the super rich, they leave, and then you have nothing for anybody. But they don't understand that, because Karl Marx. And she was going on, she was saying, I was saying Karl Marx is an idiot. And she was saying, you've never read Karl Marx, you've never read Karl Marx. And it's like, I don't need to read Karl Marx to know that he's an idiot. I can see the products of his ideology, of his philosophy. And every single opportunity, the system that he created has failed. So I don't need to read about Karl Marx at all. Just like I don't need to read about Adolf Hitler to know that he's an absolute psychological psychomaniac. You know, I don't need to read Mein Kampf for that. Same way I don't need to read Karl Marx and know that his system is a complete and utter failure, because we've seen it in practice. We've seen his system in practice, and we've seen that every opportunity where it's been implemented, it has failed. And this is what they don't understand. And then she was mocking me, saying, oh, you've not read Karl Marx, you don't understand him. And it's like, well, you've never researched the actual implications of his system and what it's done to countries. So if you're calling me ignorant, then you're ignorant of not doing your research and finding out what his system has actually done to societies where it's been implemented. So, yeah, a bit of a deep one this morning, sorry about that, guys. But yeah, this is Vindicator, sign off. Have a good day and watch it out there, it's very, very icy today.